Hello, welcome to Productions MJC. Let's take a good, hard, long look at anti-vax. The questions behind the thoughts, ideas of an anti-vaxxer. What is really going on? Let's do a proper investigation. Let's look for and find the answers. Let's stay away from the fuzziness of studies and other things that have been cited. We're not going to deal with that. We're going to deal with simple, plain, cold, hard facts. And the simple fact of the matter is, as of the creation of this video, there are 784 cases of measles being reported in the United States, 300 alone in New York. These facts were stated in a radio program from the local news radio station on my drive to work. Why do we have anti-vaxxers? Why do we have cartoon editorials depicting anti-vaxxers as fools? Is this a new thing? No. Here's a cartoon editorial, yes, an anti-vax cartoon editorial from 1802. Currently, with the spread of information and the influence, of course, of the internet, everybody can speak out, create their own statement, and get on the bandwagon and get into the act of making fun of anti-vaxxers with their own personal little comments. These statements and their influence on an anti-vaxxer is absolutely minimal because they tend to infuriate them and prove themselves to be futile because the other side makes their own. So instead of trading barbs and jabs and smart aleck snippets, trade facts, like this fact. Measles, 784 cases in the United States, 300 in New York. 500 of the total did not get vaccinations. 500. So you sit down with your anti-vaxxer and you say, look, here's the evidence. Here's the information, here's the numbers. What authentic questions do you have of the scientific community? Let's look at it through the scientific method. Let's not talk about these autism studies or these other fanciful or things where people have to surmise information. Let's talk about actual real numbers. What questions do you have for me? Or better yet, let me think of the questions that you should be asking. Not the ones you're asking, not the ones you're pointing to. Let me help you think of and form the correct investigatory questions. There are questions that you can ask, questions that are really authentic, that have meaning, have value, and need to be answered. The anti-vaxxer has to look at some good, hard facts from history. And what is that? Well, this was history. This could happen. It was deadly, and you could face being locked inside of your house because of this. However, because of this, you don't have to face that. You don't have to face that fear, that anxiety of having this happen to you, of being locked inside of your own home. When I was a child, boy, did I hate this thing. I knew exactly what it was when they were coming at me with that space gun. And because of that space gun, this turned out to be my future. We went from this political cartoon in 1802 until the final outcome of this. What possible objection could an anti-vaxxer have with that? What could be the problem? Let's look at it. And let's go back before this, back before the 1902 anti-vaxxer stuff. Let's go back before the 1802 anti-vaxxer stuff. Let's go back to this man. Your investigation needs to lead back to the start and kind of piece things together and put it together. Back before all of this was invented. Back to about the time the bicycle was being invented. Yes, the bicycle. And this man, Edward Jenner, the man that perfected the smallpox vaccine at the end of the 18th century. Let that sink in. He did it at the end of the 18th century. Benjamin Franklin lost his son to smallpox. And yet the smallpox vaccine was perfected by this man before the kerosene lamp was invented. There's no need to quote autism studies or any other stuff. Think about it. This was developed at the end of the 18th century. Here we have a timeline of the evolution of the light bulb. Think about it. Do you know that Edison did not invent the light bulb? He simply perfected a way to commercialize it and get it into the hands of the public, much the same way Henry Ford did with the Model T. That's what Edward Jenner did with the smallpox vaccination, and he made it available to people so that they could get vaccinated and eradicate the disease from the face of the earth. And that's just exactly what happened. So what should the anti-vaxxer be asking? They should be asking historical, factual, actual questions. For one, why did it take 200 years? Follow-up question, what other diseases has this been accomplished with? The answer would be none. Yes, put on your thinking cap and start asking those scientific questions. Measles, mumps, rubella, pertussis, polio. None have been eliminated, just smallpox? Don't get me wrong, smallpox killed between 3 and 500 million people. So yes, getting rid of it was very important. However, putting that into perspective, a doctor who didn't even have the advantage of working by a kerosene lamp, because it was developed 50 years later, developed a cure, history's one and only 100% effective vaccine. The one. He happened to find the one and only. Really? Let's re-examine some numbers if you don't believe me. Let's take this number to task. What aren't you seeing? What aren't you thinking about? You're thinking about the 500 anti-vaxxers, right? What you're not thinking about are the people that had the vaccine yet still got the measles. These aren't some crazy numbers. These were taken from a news report. These are not my numbers. These are the numbers from the news report themselves. But they don't want you to think about that. The news station had a comment board, and I simply said to them, hey, did you realize that 5/8 of the people that got measles didn't have vaccinations? But then again, that means that 3/8 of the people that are sick did get the vaccination. The moderators killed my comments even though I was just stating facts from the news article. From my vantage point, the anti-vaxxers are just as nutso and crazy as the anti-vaxxers are. If you can't ask a legitimate scientific question stating scientific facts about the problem, then what can you do? What will they accept? Why are news media, let alone the scientific community, afraid of simple, direct questions that are about data being told them? Maybe I don't ask the questions the anti-vaxxers ask, but why won't you answer them? I can't believe I'm the first person in the entire history of the world to say, hey, 784 minus 500 equals 284. What about the 284? Are you trying to tell me I'm the first person in the history of the world to ever say, why isn't the polio vaccine 100% effective? Why is measles, mumps, rubella vaccine only 87% effective? Why did my 21-year-old daughter get whooping cough when she had both shots? Smallpox was once and done, and boom, gone forever. Some people might say it's not profitable to get rid of a disease because then you go broke. By the time that smallpox was eliminated from the face of the earth in the 1970s, 80s, it was no longer profitable to make a disease disappear. Medicine is no longer a science, it's an industry today. And quite frankly, Edward Jenner would be rolling over in his grave if he saw how industrialized medicine has become. Let's re-examine some terminology and see if the emotional hysteria fits the definition of the words. Outbreak, epidemic, pandemic. Pandemic means worldwide disease, and the 1918 flu pandemic killed 50 million people. That is 1 in every 38 people in the world died. This map represents 784 known cases of measles, which means there are 1 in 2 million people that are sick. Not dead, but by population sick. There are true, honest questions, scientific questions, about vaccinations, the effectiveness of them, and why we only have one disease ever eradicated from the face of the earth. There are decent, honest, good questions. When I was a kid, I went on a hike with a scoutmaster who, I don't know if he was sadistic or kind-hearted or what, but he kept telling us that camp was right up around the bend, just around the corner. On and on we walked for mile after mile, hour after hour, hearing that same old droning, just around the bend, just over the next rise, just over that hill. I've been hearing that same old song from the medical community. Same old stuff, just, 40 years of it. Just around the bend, just over the next rise, just around the corner, keep giving me money. The cure is right there. It's right there. Just give me more money. It's just around the bend, just around the corner, just around the next rise. Medical community, you've had 220 years to develop a vaccine as effective as smallpox. The anti-vaxxers shouldn't be talking about autism or allergies or any of this fanciful stuff. Talk about the truth. Talk about reality. Instead of political cartoons saying, hey, it's a smallpox world. No. They should be asking, why isn't it a smallpox world? And why hasn't that worked with measles, mumps, rubella, pertussis, or any hepatitis, anything? Why is it only that one disease? It's never wrong to question. What is wrong is when people try to stop you from asking the question, or they won't give you the answer. So, anti-vaxxers, you people are stupid because you're not asking the right questions. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. This has been Productions MJC.